In recognizing Veterans Day, veteran and former football player Nate Boyer gets behind and in front of the camera to give us MVP. It's available to stream today.
Film critic Pam Powell sits down with Boyer to discuss the film and the true story that inspired it.
Nate Boyer, thank you for joining me on CI Living TV to talk about your new film, your directorial debut, MVP. Now, MVP is a movie and an organization that you co-founded. Let's first start with telling our audience a little bit about the organization MVP and its purpose.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me, Pamela. I really appreciate it. So MVP stands for Emerging Vets and Players, and the organization brings together combat vets and former professional athletes and helps them find purpose and identity and really a team again when they lose the locker room and they lose that uniform, whether it's camouflage or a jersey. That experience can be really tough. I did both. I was in the military for about 10 years, and then I went and played college football and briefly in the NFL. And so I lost the camouflage. I lost the jersey. I lost the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the sense of purpose and mission, all those things. And it was in the same year, 2015 is when I ended my military service completely. I'd been in the National Guard while I was back in college. And later that year, I went to the Seattle Seahawks and I got to play in one game, which I'm very grateful for. But then I got released and it ended. And it was like, I just felt so alone and kind of lost and like I'd peaked at a pretty young age. And it was scary, and I was considering going back in the military. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I met Jay Glazer, who I co-founded Emerging Vets and Players with, who's a Fox NFL analyst. And he's like, man, I've heard this story from so many MMA fighters and football players through my years. And I know you've had this conversation with a lot of vets. So let's figure out a way to bring these two groups together because there's a mutual respect between athletes and veterans. And that's why MVP started. And ultimately, we ended up making this film, and it's about the genesis of MVP.
Very good. And your character that you play, because you wear three hats, writer, director, and star in this film, and your character of Zephyr, is that based on any one person or is it an amalgam of various people?
It is an amalgam, but it's the backstory is based off of two individuals, a guy named Denver and a guy named AJ. Denver was in the Marine Corps in 2-7, the unit that we talk about in the film, and they lost 29 guys on back-to-back deployments overseas. And then now to date, the numbers are even higher than it says at the end of the film there, but they've lost 56 to suicide, which is just incredibly tragic. I mean, a battalion, that battalion is not that many people, it's, maybe 1,000. And then AJ's backstory, AJ growing up, he was homeless at times, with his mother, and eventually sort of left home, joined the Navy, and kind of vowed to never come back. And we met Denver and AJ in 2016 when MVP was just starting out, the organization. And these guys have been with us from the beginning. They really built what MVP is today. With how many veterans and athletes we serve. We serve thousands across the country, and we meet up every week in our various chapters in the gym, and we train together, and then we huddle up and just talk through our stuff, for lack of a better term. And Denver and AJ now are on our national staff. AJ is our national marketing director, and Denver is our national outreach director. They're our first two employees. And so when we started building the story out and the way that they got this all kind of going, it just made sense to sort of base that Zephyr character off these two people. And then the athletes, same thing. Will Phillips, that character is also an amalgam of a lot of the athletes that have come through our doors, and all the stories. I mean, that's how we wrote the script. It's really transcribed more than written, to be honest.